Now, Steve, we have a young audience in front of us, right? The front row seats, they got the premium seats. Why don't we let you go and mesmerize a little bit with his magical art of cooking?
Please just stay in your seats. Relax. I'm from Pennsylvania. We do cooking a little bit differently than over here. I will be making references to cooking or baking, so hopefully you'll enjoy that. As Jim mentioned, this is the magical art of cooking, and I get so much information. This book was written by Eugene Wizard, and what I'd like to show you here real quick is, see? Did you see that? There was nothing there, was there? Let me try that again. Oh, okay, that's better. That's better. The color, right? Did you notice that? There was no color? How are we going to get some color on here? Any ideas?
Food coloring.
Food coloring, and that would be perfect for what we're doing here, right?
Very
well,
good,
that's
sweetheart.
one way to do it, but we're not going to do that this time. I need everybody here in we're going to call you the audience. You've got yellow, green, pink, all sorts of colorful shirts. Take your hand, rub it across your chest, get some color in that hand, okay? And just hold it for a second. When I count to 3, I want you to throw it up here, and we're going to catch that onto the book. And let's see if we can transfer the color from everyone's different shirts here onto these pages. Do we think this can happen?
No.
Yeah.
Well, with an attitude like that, it's definitely not going to happen. Stop and go to the next person. No, let's...
Oh, no, we want to see.
Do we think this can happen?
Yes!
Okay, that's all right. We've got it in our hand, right? 1, 2, 3. Toss it up here. Come on. Okay. Did you see what happened? Let's see that. All right. Oh, let's see. If I say B and O, I didn't say B-O, I said B and O. What do we think of?
Railroad.
Railroad, that's right. And what does it actually stand for?
Baltimore and Ohio.
Ohio, right? Okay. Well, there was another famous rail line by the name of M&M. Anybody? Do you remember M&M? Anyone along the way? Right? Minnesota and Montana? Right? You're all totally lost here, huh? Just go with me. Yeah, you remember that one. You remember that back there, don't you? The M&M? You saw it in the... Okay. What you've got is sugar. On the train, the M&M train, they came up with something where they wanted to keep the passengers entertained. They thought, well, let's feed them. As you can see, we've got all sorts of different goodies here. They decided they were going to give them the sweets. So we start with sugar. They would cover it over. I hear it's working. This hasn't been used in years. What do we got? M&M's. M&M's for everybody.
Wow.
We're going to do something for one of these guys up front here. Since your dad was participating, we're going to have you participate too, okay? You just stay seated there. But what I've got, if you get this right, I'm actually going to cook frog legs for everybody, okay? But you got to get it right. That's the agreement. Okay, we've got frogs, 3 different frogs. 1, 2, 3. Okay, did you hear that?
Steve,
All right, now.
moving forward.
Oh. Yeah, I want
Yeah,
to lean over the table.
there.
Okay, so again, let's go over this. 1, 2. All right. So this is the guy that makes the noise. Follow the hopping frog, okay? Okay. Where do you think the frog is? Is he here? Is he here? Or is he here? It's in the middle. Who thinks that's correct?
Me.
Everyone thinks that's correct. Okay. Well, it's not. It's this one right here. Well, let's try it again. That's okay. We're fair. We're going to give you another chance. Remember, we got frog legs for everyone if we try. This is the guy. That's where he first started, wasn't it? See how he slipped back over there? All right, let's try it again. Okay, now, did you see what I did? Okay, at no time did my hands leave my arms, did they? They stayed completely attached at all times. All right, is it 1, 2, or 3? Who thinks it's 3? No, it's over here. Okay, last time, this is it. All bets off now. All right, now, is it this guy? All right, it's that guy. Now watch very carefully. Tell you what, let's make it easier. We're going to take one guy out of the picture, okay? I'm trying to work with you guys here. All right, now, this is the one, right? Okay. Now watch. Okay, see that? See that move there? Okay. Now, is it number 1 or number 2? Who thinks it's number 2? Now we're not sure, so I raised my hand. I was wrong twice. I'm sorry. I did out of cooking that frog's legs today. Thank goodness. I really didn't know what I was going to do if you would have gotten that. All right. We heard some people talking about flour. We use flour when we cook and bake, don't we? Well, sometimes I use flour too. How about that? Huh? But I don't use one flour. Oh, how about that, huh? Let's try it again. Oh my goodness, this is
You guys lucky.
4 usually does it for me. I like 4. These are what are known as spring flowers. Speaking of spring, did you hear that ring?
No, the telephone.
That is a telephone. I wonder who it is. Hello? It's a wrong number. All right. So who knows who invented that telephone? Well, maybe not this specific telephone, but who invented the telephone? Anybody? Alexander Graham Bell. That may be on this one, yes. That's true, Alexander Graham Bell. But you know what else he did that is totally remarkable that we use every day? Well, it's not. Somebody is using it every day. You're not going to get it, so let me just... The graham crackers. That's right. He's also known for the graham crackers. That's a joke. Alexander Graham Bell. You guys are so you're so disappointed with the frog legs. I'm sorry. I'm failing. Help me, Bill. What do you got? This is a... Looks mysterious so far. I hope it works. You went to Mexico. I actually went to Rome to get this scarf. How's that? Okay, this is kind of sad-looking milk, but I've got milk here. Who is familiar with condensed milk? Most of us are, and we've heard of it at least. Well, it's insane the way they used to make condensed milk years ago. This is the process they literally used. They start with a pitcher, and they're going to pour it into this. Okay? All right. Now, once they've got this glass full, they take this one and they pour it into this one. And once they've put it into that one, then they take it into the smaller one here. And they go, and see, this is condensing of the milk, right? We got that. There. And what do you think I'm going to do next? We're going to pour it into here.
No way. Wow.
And this is how you get condensed milk. Nowadays, you go to the supermarket and buy a can like that, and you just pop the top open. But that's how they had to get their condensed milk years ago. We've come a long way.
Okay, I see steam coming from the far table there. Roger, are you ready?
I'm ready. I got one more thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. David, we're going to come back to you. Let's
Okay.
break it up a little bit.
All right.
Go ahead, Roger.
I'm ready. Those of you who probably don't know me, I'm Roger Hare. We started, my wife Becky and I started coming to the church back in December, and we have a new addition to our family, Julia, who you probably all know. You don't know me, you don't know my wife, but you know our daughter, Julia. She's 2 months and she's back there sleeping away like that. I am going to make for you a dish that we've been making probably ever since my wife and I got married back in '97. She's called it a heart attack on the plate. It's an Alfredo sauce for pasta. And there's basically 4 basic ingredients. It's Parmesan cheese, butter, heavy cream, and I've added a little twist to it. Diced tomatoes in the store, you can get different flavors. I tend to get the basil, garlic, and oregano because that adds some flavor to the sauce. But I've already made the pasta. I'm going to put it over bow tie pasta, farfalle pasta. Let's get started. I've already made some, so I'm just going to show you quickly how the sauce goes together and then show you what it looks like once it's finished. All right. First thing I do is I make something called a roux. I don't know, does anyone know what a roux is?
Yeah.
Roux. What is a roux?
French word for street.
Exactly. Roux is basically just butter and flour. And instead of flour, I'm using cornstarch just to thicken the sauce up a little bit. If you don't put the cornstarch in there, it'll run. It'll feel like drinking Parmesan flavorful by the time you're done. So start off by just putting a half a stick of butter, and the serving that I'm making for you right now is good. It's the serving that I would make for my wife and I for 2 people. So if you want to make it for 4 people, you just double the recipe. But it's a half a stick of butter. All right. I put 1 tablespoon, once the butter starts to melt, whatever decides it wants to start to melt, I'll sit there and put 1 tablespoon of the cornstarch in to start. And then we'll add the heavy cream. Let's get this. Come on, you can help. I'm just going to throw everything in there and show you what it looks like when it's done. You put a tablespoon of cornstarch in, let it melt, let it just kind of dissolve, the butter dissolve the cornstarch. Then add just half a pint of heavy cream. All right? You can use, if you're washing your figure, you can use light cream. But it goes back to my days of making cheesecakes. I said, you have to resort to eating fat-free cheesecake. You shouldn't be eating cheesecake. Put that in there. It is very important that while the roux and the heavy cream is cooking, you continually stir the mixture because you don't want the heavy cream burning the bottom of the pot. It'll ruin the whole flavor of the dish. All right. So once you start to see the heavy cream boil, bubble a little bit on the edges, I then add at least 3/4 of a container of grated cheese. This, I'm not going to open the other one, but this is just a half. This is a double batch that I've made, and I've actually put 1.5 bottles of Parmesan cheese in. So that's the reason why I call it a heart attack on the plate. And you can use any type. I just happen to buy the Parmesan Romano. You can get fresh grated Parmesan. We've made it before where one of my favorite places to shop is down the Italian market. And you can go in and get fresh homemade pasta. You can go into Bruno Brothers and get the fresh cheeses. It makes what I'm doing tonight. It adds a whole new flavor to it when you buy the fresh cheese. All right? So you let that all mix together. When the cheese is completely stirred in, I then add 1 can of the diced tomatoes. All right? What I'm also going to add, 2 cloves of garlic. For those of you that like garlic, you can put 4 or 5 cloves. It's totally up to you. But in my house, my grandmother was German, so I have no Italian in my side of the family, so the thought of putting 4 cloves of garlic in anything would have scared us all away. I'm going to put the garlic, one thing I did not put in the finished product. So I have this little handy garlic press. If you're Italian, you probably just cut it up and slice it. Best thing, one of the best inventions we have. And that is it. Just show you, this is what the sauce looks like, even with 2 or 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. But when we're all done, you'll be able to come up and talk.
Makes it easy.
All right. Now, these are nice and poured out. Just put this a little bit more in here. There we go. We had a stubborn seed in there that didn't want to come out. All right. Now make sure we see. Now what I would do is, they're almost ready to go. I would take my Philadelphia cream cheese here. Yeah. I'm not going to say it's the healthiest meal for you, but you know, it's an appetizer, and you know, usually, you know, before a football game or even during, you know, eat a couple of these. We don't expect you to eat all of them, because you know, like I said, it's not a super healthy food, but it is tasty.
We're on an Easter egg team and we use cream
Tons.
cheese too.
Okay, all right. So good then, good. All right. All right, so now, all they do is poured out pepper here, well, jalapeno rather. Take my butter knife here, take 1 scoop. Layer it in here like so. I like to use the knife, but sometimes it's better to use your hand just to mold it all in there. All in there. Now, so then what I'll do is I'll take my flake steak here, which flake steak is a really good steak to use because it's very lean, but it's a steak that when you cut up against the grain, when you cut against the grain, it makes it very tender. It makes it extremely tender to cook hot and fast. You know, it's especially for these because you know I had the bacon wrapped around it. So when it's finished, it usually takes about an hour, 15 minutes. And when it's finished, it makes it like a medium. So it's very, very tender, very low bite food. So I'm actually gonna take my other glove here. My glove here. Now it's time to go fishing for some steak. All right, a little mix in here. Actually, unfortunately, I realized once we got in the back there, I forgot, you know, one of my other co-stars, my bacon. Unfortunately, so I can't show you guys that. But this is the steak here. It's been marinated 24 hours. This is a wonderful blend, so if anyone wants to know this concoction, it works really well for, you know, a lot of them. Even if you're doing like a stir fry, this works really well. So what I'll do is, you know, because of the bacon, because of the flavors in this beef, you don't need to really season it much. I mean, every once in a while I might add a little rub, just a little sprinkle to the cream cheese, because once it's cooking in the grill, it'll kind of caramelize it and it'll give the cream cheese some flavor. But because, you know, the salt content with the bacon and this, I don't really do much. So what I'll do is I'll put my steak on here, like so. And like I said, unfortunately, I forgot my bacon. That's when I would then come around, wrap the bacon around this. I'll wrap it around that product there.
Oh, I can taste that.
And and then you can cook it how you like. What I did was I used my 22.5 kettle rubber grill, and I cooked it indirect at about 260, 70 degrees. It only took about an hour, 15 minutes. It's a very quick food, very simple, very tasty once it's completed, and that's it. This is what it yields after it's done. Cream cheese is a wonderful cheese to cook in a hot pit. It can take the heat very well. So that's why this is a dish that's simple, easy, and it gets the job done. For football.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Grandma would be proud. Jim Hartshorn. He said the first time he's ever had those 4 letters in front of his name. Jeff?
I am going to prepare a multi-layered Mexican cuisine. Now, some people, I know several of you, have wondered for some time why I am such a connoisseur of fine Mexican food. Well, years ago when I was with Uncle Sam in the Navy, I had a chance to spend some time in Mexico. I went to observe their food, their customs, their language, and all that kind of stuff, you know, culture. And so I've been interested in it ever since. The first step is to take bean paste. Now this happens to be non-fat. I've never seen fat beans myself, but and we spread that liberally all over the surface. There. It looks as if somebody's been playing in the mud. That's layer 1 of the multi-layer. Layer 2 is sour cream. It goes on top of layer 1.
Everybody counting how many layers this is? We're on number 2.
When you start to dip it out, it becomes more messy. You go ahead, Barbara. That's 2. Layer 3 is sausage.
All together, layer 3.
Well, this happens to be mild because I like dinosaurs.
Can you whistle while you do that?
Anybody who wants to whistle is welcome to it. Let's stand where we're at. That's 3, right?
What layer is this?
4. All right.
There won't be a quiz.
4 is light olive. Now these happen to be super colossal jumbo size light olives, but I think any size would work. If you get the super colossal jumbo ones, you have your color. Pardon? Yeah, that's right. That's the color. Okay, that was 4. Guess what this is going to be?
5.
Good. Ooh, you're catching on. These are fresh tomatoes. They add a little extra zest to salt. And it tastes like winter tomatoes. These are tomatoes in the summer are different from anything else in the world. So much for 5. 6 green olives, 3 onions, I'm sorry. Seven is cheese.
What kind of cheese?
Mexican cheese.
From Mexico?
Yes, yes. We learned it yesterday. I think it was the Wegmans in Mexico City. And then, that was 7 cities, then it would have been a 7-year trip.
I'm glad you didn't read a list.
And 8 is another time of change. What's happened to the baby? Monterey, Mexico, right? Just concluded preparation. When it's finished, what you have is an awful-looking mess.
All right, moving to the other side. Bill Child, Chef Bill Child, back for, how many years has it been for you, Bill?
This is my 4th year.
He's the pie master.
Well, I made 2 different pies, 2 different kinds. The first one, I made a sweet potato pie. And that's pretty easy to make. Actually, I cheated a little bit. I bought the crust that you get from the supermarket and you can just roll them out. I do know how to make the crust, but it just seems like it's easier to do it that way. And I heated the oven to 350 degrees, and I put the crust in for a little while just so it would get harder, so that it wouldn't be soggy. Some suggestion. So anyway, so the crust is just ordinary, and the filling, first of all, I had to cut up the sweet potatoes in chunks, and then you, after they get soft, you have to mash them all, just like mashed sweet potatoes. That's the basic part of the pie. And then I added 1/3 cup of soft butter, and 2 eggs, lightly beaten. I added 2 cups of sweet potatoes for each pie. But I had so many left over, I decided to make the double recipe, so I have 2 pies actually. And then I also added for a teaspoon of vanilla, a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, a 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So you preheat the oven to 350 degrees, and then you dump everything in, you mix it all up real good, and you blend it. So it's nice and smooth. And you put it in the oven, and you bake it at 350 for 35 to 40 minutes. And that's what I made it. The second pie I made is a sweet onion pie.
Ooh.
This is what it looks like. Wow. And I use Vidalia onions because they're very sweet. They have a lot of sugar. So first, you have to make a special crust. I didn't use flour. I used crushed cracker crumbs. Actually, I used Ritz crackers. And I had to get 1½ cups of the cracker crumbs. And then you add melted butter. And you mix it all together. And then you get your pie plate and you push it all down, you smooth it down, and you push it up to the side. So that's the crust. It has a cracker crumb crust. So for the filling, first of all, you have to slice the onions very thin. You need, at least for one pie, you need 2 cups of thinly sliced Vidalia onions. Then I added, I put them into the pie shell. And then I added, separately, I had 3/4 cup of whole milk. This is the filling part that goes on top of the onions. 3/4 cup of whole milk, 2 eggs, 2 cloves of garlic, chopped up real fine, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1 tablespoon of chopped chives. So you mix that all up real good, and then when it's all mixed up, you pour it over the onions. And then on top of that, you put cheddar cheese. Put 3/4 of a cup of shredded cheddar cheese. And you bake it at 350 degrees for 35 to 40 minutes. And it's very sweet. It's probably best to serve it at either warm or at room temperature. It's not exactly a dessert, but it would go very good with a meal like roast beef or something like that, some kind of a meat.
Hot dog.
Yeah, hot dogs would work too.
Let us know when you're making it, but the roast beef will be there.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I made, and I hope you like it.
Very nice, Bill.